Fallout New Vegas is a timeless classic, and this week I was tasked with beating it only using a nail gun, a weapon that can dish out some really fast damage and can only be found in the Lonesome Road DLC. However, I'm not allowed to use companions, which makes this challenge a little bit harder than you'd expect. But with that being said, let's get into the run. Like with most runs, I had to make my character, but in staying with the theme of being unalived and brought back from the dead, I decided to play as a ghoul, and with the exception of my pink hands, I thought this looked pretty sweet. Next came my stats, and I figured since we only needed one weapon to beat the game with, strength wasn't needed. I left perception alone, dropped endurance to 4 because this wasn't survival and I could actually take a shot this time. Charisma stayed at 5 along with luck, but intelligence and agility were bumped up to 10 each. Intelligence for stat points and agility for gun damage. Doc Mitchell then decided he wanted to ask me some questions off a BuzzFeed article and showed me some Banksy photos. Then I was allowed to set my perks. Most of the starting perks would have given me more negatives than actually helped, so I went with Wild Wasteland and Logan's Loophole. Mainly because the only negative of the Logan's Loophole perk didn't happen until level 30, and there was no way we were getting that high. Now that I was set free in record time compared to Fallout 4, I made the long journey over to the beginning of the Lonesome Road DLC. It recommends you to be at least level 25, but considering I'm only here to get my nail gun, I didn't think this would actually matter. After doing some research, the nail gun in question can be found at Hopeville further into the DLC, or sometimes in random toolboxes. Nails being the obvious ammo choice could be bought by vendors in the main game, but you could also find and get them here too. So I followed the only path available and arrived at a missile silo. Inside nothing seemed to work, but after a couple minutes I found an iBot named Edie who immediately became my companion and could unlock the rest of the area. The only issue is companions are not allowed. I tried a couple of times to dismiss or even get the iBot to naturally move into the places I needed unlocking, but this wasn't working. The worst part was I found a nail gun literally past the second door I opened, so now that I knew my weapon was here, I just had to find a way to get it without using the companion. And that meant trying to wall climb outside, resulting in a ton of deaths as there's an invisible kill wall if you go low enough on these rocks. However, it turns out I could just walk through the wall to get what I wanted with no help from Edie. Fallout New Vegas seems to have an issue with quick saving and quick loading at the same time, resulting in walls not working. Sometimes that means you just fall off the map and recenter on the entrance, but other times it means you literally just walk through the wall. So after breaking time and space, I was able to get my nail gun and some ammo for it. But when I tried to leave, I couldn't repeat the glitch. At this point I figured I was stuck, so I just continued through the silo the way it was intended until I got to another point where you needed Edie to continue again. Maybe breaking time and space wasn't such a good idea, but when there's a will, there's a way. And by there's a way, I mean I walked off the face of the planet and teleported back to the entrance. Easy as that. Outside the DLC area, I got to test out the nail gun on some coyotes, and man, this thing burns through ammo. And since it has a huge clip, most things without armor don't stand a chance. But keep in mind I said without armor. That'll play a very important role later in our story. Now came the trip to the New Vegas Strip, and if you thought I wasn't going to attempt Cazador Valley, you're very, very wrong. I had to make sure those bastards got a couple of free meals. I got bullied by some rad scorpions as well, and I was thinking this trek wasn't going to work out yet until I saw a Deathclaw straight up fist fighting some Cazadors on my behalf, and that was enough to give me enough time to make a run for it. The road to New Vegas was pretty uneventful after that point, but I managed to restock at the Gunrunners before continuing. And since I made some room in my pockets exchanging caps for nails, it was now time to refill my caps at the Atomic Wrangler to pass the credit check into New Vegas. For only having a luck at 5, this didn't take nearly as long as I thought it would. After flashing my fat stacks to the robot guards, I ran straight to the tops, ran past the bouncers, and got blasted. I was expecting to see Benny in the corner like he usually is, but after gunning down some chairmen, it was very clear he wasn't here yet. But luck was eventually on my side. Benny finally showed up, and now came time to kick the hornet's nest once again. I dosed up on tons of healing items and got to work turning this man into Swiss cheese. But now came the run through the swarming chairman to make it to Benny's room and his indentured servitude yes man. I spammed through the dialogue options while getting shot at and made a run for Mr. House. I needed him to have an accident before I could continue. I made my way to the presidential suite and immediately started pushing buttons. His robots opened fire, but by this point I was used to being shot at.
Oh my god, this should not be allowed! Oh my god, this is borderline speedrun! Oh my god, they're not even coming in here! This is retarded! I love this game!
I was losing it at this point because of just how silly this run was so far. Screw quests and compelling stories, I was here for a good time, not a long time. So I set Walt Disney free from his prison and showed him what life on the strip was like. Now all I had to do was go back to Yes Man and have him help me take over the world. I went and stocked up on healing items first and then made the run back through a twice-kicked hornet's nest. Luckily these guys had crappy little holdout pistols, so I didn't have to worry about being deaded quickly. Anything else in this would have been a problem. So now with Yes Man in tow, we made it back to the Lucky 38 and I got a demonstration of my new homies. And spoiler alert, they're way better than the Minutemen. Now that Mr. House was out of the picture, it was time for me to do a tour of the Mojave. First up was the Omertas, and they, much like the Topps Chairman, were very spicy with their weapons, so it was better to leave them alone. Next up was the White Glove Society, and these guys didn't immediately gun me down, so instead I decided to use the nail gun to do some impromptu human shish kebabs. Long story short, these guys didn't last very long. I went and did a little jig in front of the Great Khans but got no reaction, and then tried to fight the Brotherhood of Steel. But remember how I said armored opponents dusted off nails? Yeah, I got smacked here. So against my wishes, I got an explosive collar attached and had to go scare off an NCR Ranger, an easy enough task. I had to dodge an artillery strike by some old people, and then when I was left alone with their leader, I showed her my nail, and then ran away when she didn't respond. I reported back to Yes Man, and now I had to go override a substation. I got lost on the way and ended up in Black Rock Mountain, which caused me to get jumped by super mutants. I took a couple down, but the nail gun doesn't do a ton of damage against anything with a lot of resistance. After figuring out where I was, the NCR let me walk right in and mess with their substation. No issues, and now came the end of the run. Or at least the first attempt. The assault on the Hoover Dam began and I got to work running and gunning. The nail gun did pretty good, as even though the damage isn't super high, it cripples really fast and prevents enemies from attacking. After setting off some explosives, I made my way to the Legate's camp to finish the fight. I didn't know you could do this because I'm usually never restricted by weapons when I play this game, but you can actually lure out the Legate's guards and have them get slapped by Securitrons. However, even though I made it here in record time, I messed up my skill points and didn't have enough speech to finish the game. Even after passing a ton of skill checks and making it a one-on-one fight, I didn't do enough damage and didn't have enough ammo to finish the run. So I decided to go back and play the part of the game that I skipped by having Sunny train me on how to survive the wasteland, and then shooting Joe Cobb. But apparently that's a no-no, so I had to reset and instead got the townsfolk to shoot him instead. The quest completion was pretty terrible though, so the poor people of Good Springs had to go bye-bye. But their sacrifice wasn't in vain. I leveled up, and between raising my charisma by 1 and dumping all my skill points into speech, I now had enough to finish the game. I made it back through the Battle of Hoover Dam and once again made it to the Legate's camp with more ammo this time. But his armor laughed at my nail gun as he smacked me with his Dragon Slayer, so I had to talk my way out of this fight. But with him out of the way, the NCR rolled in and started demanding control over the dam. So I threw their general off the dam, giving him a perfect send-off and ending the run. All in all, I liked this run. The nail gun is actually a pretty dope submachine gun with fairly cheap ammo, and since you can craft it using spare junk means ammo is never in short supply. New Vegas is one of those games that I highly encourage everyone to play, and since all the DLCs are a blast as well, it's one of those few titles that multiple playthroughs feels worthwhile and gives you a different run every time. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel out a ton. Plus, if you have a suggestion for a challenge run you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. I play all sorts of games, so no challenges off the table. I want to thank all of you that watched to this point, and as always, I've been Chris from Crisis Gaming, and I will see you on the next one.